Welcome to my new releases video for November 2025. This month is going to be a little bit of a shorter one because there are only 26 books that I'm anticipating that are coming out in November. Let me know in the comments below which books you're most anticipating. If I miss any of the ones that you're anticipating off of this list, it would be really good if you could tell me, because then I can add them to my TBR as well. So without further ado, let's get started. The first book that I would like to talk about is The House Sapphire by Marissa Meyer. This is the author of Cinder and various other books as well, and this is the first book in a romantasy series, I think. It may be a standalone, so don't quote me on the series thing, but it's definitely a romantasy and possibly a murder mystery as well. So this follows a main character called Mallory. It says that she comes from a long line of witches, but she's unable to do as much magic as the witches before her. She is, however, able to see ghosts. This isn't really seen as like a useful magical power until she goes to the Sapphire estate, which used to belong to a count who was accused of killing 3 of his wives. And I think she has to investigate what happened there. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I know that I love Marissa Meyer's writing. I've not read a book from her in ages, but I think this will be a really good one to read. Fallen City by Adrian Young is coming out on the 4th of November. This is a YA romantasy book, and I think it's the first in a duology. This one is set in a walled city. There's political turmoil happening in there. This political situation has been building for about a century, and the main character is supposed to be carrying on his family name, but then something goes horribly wrong. There's a catastrophe in the city and he is forced to reassess what he's doing with his life. There's also a second main character who is, I believe, a female main character, and she has been the novice to a priestess who has been in possession of stolen magic, and I think the two of them meet and that sets off a whole chain of events. Cold Wire by Chloe Gong. This is a YA dystopian book. I think as well as being dystopian, this is also cli-fi, climate fiction. It says that now that sea levels are rising and there are rampant epidemics, most of society lives up country in glistening virtual reality, while those who can't afford the subscription are forced to remain in crumbling down country. But up country isn't perfect. There's a cold war raging between 2 nations. It says something about a military academy, so I'm guessing main characters end up going there and having to train and probably taking down the entire regime. The Burning Queen is coming out on the 4th of November. This is the sequel to The Phoenix King, which I've read part of but I haven't finished yet. I do really need to do that. It's a very heavy political fantasy. The first one is set mainly in the Desert Kingdom, and the main character is heir to the throne. She's set to take over from her father, but she's not really sure what all of that entails because her father isn't telling her everything that comes with being king, or queen in her case. She also is given a bodyguard who was an assassin, and the two of them get to know each other a bit, and I'm not at the romance part yet, but I'm guessing they get into a romance, and The Burning Queen is the sequel to this. Cursed Daughters. This is contemporary literary fiction. The tagline says that a young woman must shake off a family curse and the widely held belief that she is the reincarnation of her dead cousin. This is by the author of My Sister the Serial Killer, which you may have heard of. It's very, very popular. I'm really looking forward to reading it. Ship of Spells. This one is romantasy with pirates. It says here that there's a war-scarred mage, a sentient ship, and a secret that could drown empires. The main character is rescued from the wreckage of her first naval post, and she expects death or disgrace. Instead, she wakes up aboard the Touchstone, a mythic vessel whispered of in dockside ballads and royal war rooms alike. A crew of misfits, an elven captain, a mission tied to the Dread Wall, and something about an open war. I think this one sounds really good. I've not read enough pirate fiction lately, so I'm maybe picking this one up soon. The Sacred Space Between. This one is another romantasy book. It's said to be more gothic than the others. It's for fans of Divine Rivals and A Study in Drowning. It seems to be talking about patrons and memory magic and exiled saints. So it's a little bit more religion based. I think this one sounds very intriguing. Where He Left Me is a thriller book coming out on the 4th of November. This is about a newlywed woman whose husband disappears, and that leaves her all alone, isolated in a mountain cabin. And I love thrillers set in the mountains, in the wilderness. So I think this one's going to be very atmospheric and right up my street. On the 11th of November, we have a couple of sequels coming out that I am highly anticipating. The first one being The Strength of a Few. This is the sequel to The Will of the Many, which you've probably heard of. I probably spoke about it in my wrap up, I imagine, which I haven't recorded yet, but I will. This is Roman inspired epic fantasy. It follows in an orphan called Vis who trains to join an academy, and then he joins the academy, and then he climbs the ranks, and he is given some ultimatums by various groups of people. I really love the first one and I can't wait to read this. The sequel to Legends and Lattes is coming out as well on the same date. It's called Brigands and Bread Knives. This is following Fern, the bookseller, as she reunites with Viv from the coffee shop. I cannot wait to read this one. I'm so hyped. A book called Break Wide the Sea by Sarah Holland is coming out on the 11th as well. This is a YA fantasy book. The tagline says, a young woman cursed with a fatal heartbreak-induced sickness must race against time to find a cure and protect her family legacy from the ancient Finn folk that would destroy it, fiancé that would kill her for it, and the boy who would love her if she forsook it. So this is also set on the water. I don't think it's necessarily about pirates, but it's talking about Finn folk, which I imagine are like sirens, mermaids, and the main character who has magical powers. I'm looking forward to reading this. The Merge, this is a debut. It's a sci-fi dystopian book set on a world, on a planet. I'm trying to say that it's set on Earth, but the resources have almost run out. And in this dystopian setting, a procedure has come about that can combine two people's consciousness into the same body, and this is meant to save resources or something. So the main character is Laurie, and she's 65 and she has Alzheimer's. And her daughter Amelia is obviously distraught by this. Alzheimer's is an absolutely awful disease, and she signs her and her mother up for this experiment where it can merge the both of them into one body. I think it sounds really, really interesting. If the author pulls this off, I think it could be a very interesting topic to discuss. To Kill a Queen, this one is historical fiction. I think I've mentioned this one before maybe, but I can't remember in which video. So in this one, it's set in Elizabethan England or London, and then Queen Elizabeth I is almost assassinated. I've not read many books set in Elizabethan London, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I think the main character is some sort of criminal or thief, and that's always something that I really enjoy reading about. The Forest of Missing Girls, this one is a horror thriller book. So the main character has been growing up surrounded by woodland, and she has always heard like whispers in the trees, and she has found them very, very sinister, and she's always been scared of them. But one day a teenage girl disappears in the woods, and so Leah has to confront her fears and figure out what's going on. Next time will be our turn. This one is told from the point of view of a grandmother, I believe, and she's telling her granddaughter about her life story, I think. So I believe the grandmother is in her 70s, and she turns up to her birthday dinner with a woman on her arm, and she kisses the woman, and I think this is her like coming out as queer, which shakes the entire family. They're not expecting this at all, and so the grandmother decides to tell her story. Lucky Girl, this one is another debut book. It's about a famous child star, I think. It's fiction. I think the main character is or was a dancer, and some old pop star guy takes an interest in her, and I think it's meant to be a really dark book. It's like a coming of age story as well, and the main character gets disconnected and alienated from her family, and I guess it's about her sort of rediscovering herself and getting away from her abusers. On the 18th of November we have the sequel to Quicksilver coming out. It's called Brimstone. I don't know if I'm going to read it because I gave the first book 1 star. I honestly thought it's one of the worst books that I've ever read. But at the same time, I kind of want to see where the story goes, and I want to recap the rest of this series, so I kind of want to hate read this, to be honest. I'm sorry if you like it. I'm so sorry, but I didn't. It's not a good book. I put this on the list because I may be reading Brimstone, and I just need to own up to what I'm doing. I, Medusa. This is a Greek mythology retelling about Medusa. I believe it's like her villain origin story, which I always enjoy reading about. The Burning Library by Gillian Macmillan. This one is set in Scotland, in the Western Hebrides. I believe a dead body of a woman is found, and this kicks off a whole chain of events because the woman who died or was murdered, she was very well known in the community, and so it's a whole like entangled web of mystery. Violet Thistlewaite is not a villain anymore. This one I think is cozy fantasy. It's about a plant witch and an alchemist, and it's like a Grumpy Sunshine sort of deal. It's also a debut as well. Love supporting debut authors. It says that the alchemist and the witch have to work together to save their quiet town from a magical plague. Haven't killed in years. This is an adult thriller book. So the main character is called Gwen. She is the daughter of a well-known serial killer, and then she's just trying to live her life at her office job, like keep it low-key, but then she is targeted by another killer, and I guess she has to try to get them before they get her. 59 Minutes. This one is another adult thriller suspense book. It says here that it's following 3 women as they face an incoming nuclear attack. I imagine that's about to hit in 59 minutes. That's where the title comes from. It says it's based in South England. They need to seek immediate shelter, and it's not a test. The synopsis doesn't really say much else. I'm really intrigued by this one. I think it sounds very interesting, really quite scary as well given the current climate, so I'd like to give this one a go. Red as Royal Blood. This is YA fantasy. It says that it's the inheritance games getting the royal treatment in this paperback original thriller that combines courtly intrigue, succession drama, and romance. I love all of those things. I love royal drama, rich people drama, all of that chaos as they like fight each other and pull each other apart. And the main character, I believe, is like infiltrating the royal court somehow. And then finally we have 3 books that are coming out on the 25th of November. The first one is As Many Souls as Stars. It's a witchy book, of course. People are really jumping onto the witchy trend. So it's a romance novel between 2 women. One is a witch and one is an immortal demon. It's first set in 1592. I think they make some sort of deal together, and It begins like a dance relationship across the centuries. I love the sound of this one, cannot wait to read it. Best Offer Wins. This is another thriller horror book. It says here that the main character Margot has been searching for a house to buy in the DC suburbs for the past 18 months. She finally gets a tip about the perfect house in the perfect neighbourhood, and so she goes and looks because she really wants to get out of her cramped apartment. She wants to have a baby and get her marriage back on track with her husband Ian, and so she really wants to buy this perfect house. And then it talks about stalking and trespassing, and the main character starts infiltrating the current homeowners' lives, and it sounds really creepy and obsessive, and I really like the sound of it, so that's why it's on this list. And then finally we have Family of Spies. This one is non-fiction. It's a World War II memoir. It says here that it's about one family's shocking involvement as Nazi and Japanese spies during World War II and the pivotal role they played in the bombing of Pearl Harbor. I don't know anything about this family or these families, so I'd like to read this and find out a bit more. And those are all the books that I'm looking forward to that are coming out in November 2025. As I said before, let me know which books you're most anticipating in the comments below. Tell me if you disagree with any of my list, or if you just like to add to it, that's okay too. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye!